I am Hope Agon, a college student and a veteran ambassador, and I am here with this pleasure of interviewing Colonel Hawkins. Good afternoon, Colonel Hawkins.
Hey, Hope, good morning. How are you? Or good afternoon now. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Hey, I'm good.
Colonel Hawkins, can you tell us how did your STEM career begin?
Okay. So let me back up a little bit. So, first of all, hey, it's a pleasure being with you this morning on behalf of Major General Burkhead, our tag, the Adjutant General of Maryland. So, it is a great opportunity, and I'm happy to be here with you this morning. Um, as far as my STEM career, it's a funny question that you asked that. I actually didn't go into college or go directly focusing on a STEM career. I was an aviation major, started out in college, and started flying. So that's kind of more on the technology side. So I want to say I kind of, by default, still probably fell into a STEM career. But I always wanted to fly since I was about 4 years old, and in the military, I was about 10 years old. I always wanted to be in the military. So they just kind of transitioned into aviation, wanting to fly, technology, and I kind of ended up in STEM as a default, I would kind of say. But that's kind of how my STEM career launched, with just a love for aviation. Are you able to hear me, Hope? Hey, Ray or Sarah, are you guys on? Can you hear me?
I'm Joy. You can put me on the okay, yeah.
All
Um
right.
honestly, I loved your answers. Like to know that it wasn't planned for you to be in STEM. It actually was, a default, but it just shows us like sometimes we start one place but we can end in a whole different direction. And life has a way of like finding our destiny for us. So what is the most exciting aircraft in your opinion? Like now that you said that you flew planes at first. So what was your most exciting aircraft that you've flown? I've always been interested in that.
Okay, so I started out flying small airplanes in college, so I'm dual rated flying airplanes and helicopters. But I'm a Black Hawk pilot now, so I would by far say the UH-60 Black Hawk helicopter is an outstanding aircraft and one of my favorites. I'm a little biased toward it. I've spent my career in that aircraft, but it is a workhorse for the U.S. Army. You can do multiple things with it, but definitely the Black Hawk helicopter. If you've seen the movie Black Hawk Down, that helicopter is flown in that movie, and that's what we fly today.
Oh, okay. So we want to see more of your presentation. Do you mind presenting that to us now, and then we're gonna get back to our Q&A?
Yep, absolutely. So what I
Okay,
wanted to
great.
do, yep, I wanted to make sure everybody kind of had an idea of kind of what I do in the organization. So kind of get everybody baselined a little bit. So the 29th Expeditionary Combat Aviation Brigade, that's the Aviation Brigade, the organization here in Maryland. So all of Maryland Army Aviation Assets, I'm the commander of that unit here in Maryland. Next slide, please. All right, so we call this a task organization. So the very top block, that's me and my command team. So I have a sergeant major and a chief warrant officer. So we look at everything as a team. So we lead this aviation brigade here in Maryland. So the bottom line off of this slide, we have about 16 units in our organization. There's the subordinate commands and then the other units that fall up under that. You can kind of see them segmented as you go from left to right. But hey, bottom line, we're authorized over 1,100 soldiers here in Maryland, and that makes up our brigade here in Maryland. All right, next slide. So I want to make a little distinction here, Joy. If you look at this slide here, so this says war trace units. So if we go to combat, whether that's Iraq, Afghanistan, overseas, we come together with about 5 to 10 other states. So if you look from left to right, those other states, in addition to Maryland and my team leading this organization, you would have Florida, Iowa, Alabama, and Virginia all coming together training together, and then going overseas to do our warfighting mission or anything else that we're called to do. But this organization here is over 2,200 people. So anywhere from Army aviators that fly, that maintain aircraft, to our medics, to our doctors, to our HR professionals, to our supply and logisticians. All of that represents about 2,200 people to make sure that this organization is ready to go. Next slide. All right, so here in Maryland proper, remember I told you about 1,100 folks here in Maryland, but these are just the indication of where our units are located in Maryland. So you can see with the stars, a majority of our aviation assets are here in Edgewood. That's just about 30 minutes north of Baltimore. Phillips Army Airfield, that's at Aberdeen Proving Grounds. That's about 30 minutes north of where we are here in Edgewood. And then a couple of units in Townsend and Pax River down in Southern Maryland. Okay, next slide, please. Wait, go back on this slide. I'm sorry, go back one. So with every organization, there's a mission statement. So if you look at the very top of that, it says the mission. I'll let you guys read that there. But this is our mission for our organization, for our brigade. So every soldier in the brigade knows what this mission is, and then they have their duties and how we come together as a team to fulfill that mission. So everybody, without a doubt, understands the mission, understands their role, understands how they are to perform as a team member in the organization for us to be successful. Okay, next slide. As far as our capabilities, the aircraft that we fly here in Maryland, so I just go from the left and then to the right. So our biggest aircraft is called the Chinook, the CH-47. That's our heavy lift aircraft. They can carry a lot of weight, and it moves a lot of equipment around the battlefield. Right up under that, you see the Black Hawk. That's what I fly, and it's a medevac aircraft also. So I'm also a medevac pilot. So I do search and rescue, etc. So those are our medevac aircraft here in Maryland. The one up under that is the Assault. It's still a Black Hawk helicopter, but it's used to insert troops into the war zone or carry out other missions where a medevac aircraft cannot do. So it makes sense. You wouldn't want to use your medevac aircraft to carry a bunch of troops in with machine guns, etc. So we make sure that those missions stay separated. And if you look to the far right, I'll start at the top. That's our Lakota 72. That's our light utility helicopter used for transporting VIPs, and some of them are used for medical evacuation. And we also have unmanned aircraft systems. You see the TUAS, that's our Tactical Unmanned Aircraft System. That's down there in Pax River, Southern Maryland. So we do have unmanned aircraft system capability within the brigade. And we also have one fixed wing airplane aircraft that we use for a little bit longer range missions, but we do have airplanes in our formation. Okay, next slide. And these are just some of the capabilities here that we have in Maryland. If you go from left to right, I'll start off at number one. Obviously, transportation. We can transport our soldiers. We can transport some of our civilian leadership, whether that be in Maryland or into other states. Communication, we have an air traffic control unit here. So that's an interesting and very lucrative career field. So a lot of our air traffic controllers work in places like BWI, Reagan Airport, Philadelphia Airport on their full-time job, and then come here on the weekends to do their Army mission to be air traffic controllers. So communication, firefighting, information and intelligence planning, emergency assistance, and search and rescue. These are just some of the missions that we can perform here in the brigade using our aviation assets. And next slide. And of course, Maryland Army National Guard. So on this one, Joy, we work for you. Everybody that's online here, we work for you. You are the customer. So whether that's a hurricane, whether that's a tornado, whether that's riots, that's what the National Guard is here to do. So we work for our governor. Someone mentioned Governor Westmore. So Governor Westmore is our commander-in-chief here in Maryland. If we happen to go overseas to Iraq, then the commander-in-chief is the president of the United States. But every state has their own National Guard, and the governor is the commander-in-chief of that National Guard organization. And that should be the last slide.
Thank you so much, Colonel Hawkins. If it's okay with you, I'd like to invite my fellow ambassadors to ask you some questions.
Yep, no problem.
Thank you. Fellow ambassadors, would you introduce yourselves again?
My name is Oliver. Nice to meet you.
Hey, Oliver, nice meeting you.
Hello, I'm Moria Bowman.
Hey, Maria.
My first question, my sister's gonna join us soon, but let's start with these questions because I'm dying to hear these answers.
Yep, go ahead.
What is the most exciting aircraft in your opinion?
So that's a loaded question a little bit. So, in my opinion, so I'm a little bit biased. I think it really depends on the individual because everybody's different. So I have friends that are in the Air Force and in the Navy, so they like flying fighter jets, being really high up in the sky. But for Army aviation, we fly really low. So you're talking about 30 to 50 feet down in river valleys, around mountains, canyons. You see ducks and geese that are like flying up around as we fly so low. So I like rotary wing aircraft. The Black Hawk, I'm a little bit biased on, but I'm gonna stick with the Black Hawk since I'm an Army aviator and stay on the rotary wing side of the house.
That reminds me of this movie I saw with do you know okay, so they had like fighter jets and they had to go really high for the mission, but they also had to go really, really, really low. Um the actor was really famous for was it doing
Was it? It wasn't Maverick Top Gun, was it?
it was No, yeah, I Maverick. think it was,
Yeah.
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 It was
So, no, one of my favorite movies, that aircraft was a FA-18 Hornet that's used in the Navy and the Marine Corps. But yeah, those guys, they get down real low, real fast. But if in that scene, one of the pilots got shot down, you saw one of the helicopters, a big helicopter that came around really low and started shooting. So, but yeah, our aircraft are very, very capable, have multi-role missions. It's not that aircraft can only do one thing. They can do a multiple variety of things.
okay, So you that's so said in cool. oh, sorry, Hope. So you said in the beginning how you didn't have a STEM career at first and then you actually ended up having a STEM career. STEM is intimidating. I know for lots of people, they hear the word STEM and they're like, "Oh, that's scary." Were you ever intimidated when you first started your career in STEM? And if so, how did you get through that?
Yeah. So when I wasn't intimidated at all, actually. So it started from a dream since I was 3 or 4 years old. I always wanted to fly. So that
Mm.
was the dream, was to fly. STEM, etc. I just kind of ended up being a part of STEM, but the goal was always to be a military aviator. So technology, engineering, that kind of accompanies that career field, but it wasn't necessarily um, it wasn't necessarily an issue or a concern going in. I mean, I had a blast. So you get a chance to finish your classes during the day, and in the afternoon, I would get in an airplane and go fly. So it was fun and it was great. Now, don't get me wrong, there's challenges, but with anything that's worth having, there's always going to be challenges. But what you guys talked about a little bit earlier was mindset. So the mindset was the ultimate goal was to be an Army aviator. These are some of the goals or some of the milestones I have to hit to get to that ultimate goal. So mindset played a key. That was key. All right, hey, get through these finals. Hey, get through this check ride on the aircraft, and then your career keeps going. So mindset was key, and mindset I think kept me out of the negative that surrounded that. Hey, what if I fail this? What if I fail that? It was the
Mm.
mindset. So mindset was key.
Awesome, awesome. Go ahead,
Hmm.
Roger.
Oliver,
Hmm. Colonel Hawkins, so I know that going to the Air Force Academy and being deployed, they can pose many different challenges. So I was just wondering, who helped you the most when you were facing some of those challenges?
Okay, so I would say it kind of depends on where I was at a certain point in time. Um, my mom raised me to be very, very independent. I went through ROTC program, and you get those leadership skills and how to deal with situations going through ROTC and the National Guard at the same time. So I was a junior in college when I got in the National Guard, and they were preparing me to be an officer and to lead troops and to deal with complex situations. So I would have a mentor 1 weekend a month as I go to the National Guard and do my drill weekend, but I would have a mentor that would talk to me about challenges and concerns and getting through certain situations. So that's key, and great if you can kind of have somebody to lean toward and to ask those questions to get through some of those situations. So everything I would say probably from my mom early on that gave me those skills early to get through college and to persevere and get my degree. But as I went to combat and dealing with situations overseas, it was my more seasoned mentors that already kind of been there, done that, that kind of grabbed me and say, all right, hey, what are your questions? Perhaps look at this or perhaps look at that. So that was key. And so doing a lot of reading on my own too. So let's say if you don't have that mentor, hey, books are great, or audio books are great because that's somebody else's life that they've given to you pretty much and that you can relate to, or you can grab something and put in your kit bag to help you out in the future.
I love that you said that because I used to tell my friends, like, even with movies, I told them, I was like, I like, what's the message you got out your movie? And they're like, who watches movies for entertainment? But I said, you always like, okay, so like that we have a climax and we have the antagonist and then we have the certain issue. It's like it's literally a secret way of not having to experience something but getting the life key lessons. It's like an easy little you get to gain it without even going through the experience. So I definitely see how you like what you say about books, being able to like teach you a lot. So I definitely understand that. Moira, do you have any questions that you want to share with us too?
I do actually. Um, so this is a kind of basic question,
Okay.
but when you were in school, what helped you the most when you were studying? Like what helped you focus?
What helped me focus the most? So I will, I will always leave it to this. Um, my overall goal was one to, obviously get my degree, but ultimately to be a military aviator. That was like always the goal. So no matter going through college, those challenges or whatever, I would look at that and I'm like, oh man, I got this final. I don't know if I'm gonna get through it. But hey, if I don't get through this may affect where I want to be later in the future. But some of the things that you guys were discussing, time management is huge. I'm the world's worst procrastinator. So I will wait until the week before to finish an assignment. However, I work very, very good under stress. So I could have a few days left and I would burn midnight oil and work 3 nights in a row or 3 days in a row. And I had 3 months to do that subject. And then I would
Oh,
come out with a B or an A. But that was just
Oh.
the way that I did things. I do not recommend waiting to the last minute, but everybody's different, right? So you have to know yourself, know what you're capable of doing, and then manage everything. You have to be able to balance things. So balance things, have fun at the same time. You don't want to be all work and no play. You have to be able to balance. So that's what I'd say. Just balance everything and know your capabilities and know yourself.
That was actually one of the next questions I was going to ask you, especially because last career day, we talked about mental health and how for a good mental health, we should have a good work to life balance. So it does seem, yes, like you were always on track. How did you maintain that work to life balance though? Like how did you still have fun? What things do you find fun? And yeah, just let us know about that.
Okay, so I make sure that that's priority in our organization. So as I mentioned before, we have 1,100 folks in our organization, and
Mhm.
I will bring this up during our meetings, especially during the summertime. Kids are out of school, and I would tell our folks, hey, make sure that you take time off. Make sure that you put in for vacations because hey, you have a family. Those members, whether it be your mom, dad, brothers, hey, they're your family. You need to make time for those folks also. But and in all fairness, um, they're what makes us successful also. So if you have a good family, good friends, and you invest in them, hey, they're investing in you. And
Mhm.
sometimes you need that ear to hear you or to kind of vent to get you through. So I'm a big champion of work-life balance. I just always make it a priority in our organization because what you don't want to happen is you burn your people out. So when
Right.
you burn your people out, they're exhausted and their performance goes down, their attitude goes down, their mindset's in the wrong place. So you have to be able to balance that as being a leader in the organization. So you have to look at everything, balance that, and try to do the best that you can.
I love this Q&A already. This has to be one of my favorite career Q&A days because what you do is so interesting, and then how you put it, and you're so real. Like
Yeah.
you're so real. I love that. I have one final question for you,
Yep.
and that is, since we talk about like having to like go through hurdles to reach your ultimate goal, but since reaching your ultimate goal, what's one thing you learned about yourself?
So one thing I learned about myself in reaching ultimate goals is I can definitely stick with a plan. I've obviously been doing that my entire career. Um, I think what I learned at this point is, and you guys, I figure this out as you get older, but once you kind of hit those goals and those milestones and you're in a certain place, it's becoming even more important, especially as a leader, to give that knowledge and that education and those opportunities to others around you so that they can have the blueprint to be successful. So that I mean, hey, I'm here today. I'm absolutely thrilled to be with you guys today. So you can hear, hey, just from a perspective, my perspective, on how to accomplish your goals and what are some things that you can put in your kit bag. But I would definitely say just being focused, being able to stick to a goal, but now to share that information with our team to make them more successful.
I love everything you just mentioned. I agree to 100%, and I hope to become half as good a leader as you are,
You'll be
one day
better
in
than you'll
my
be better.
life. Do you have any final words you want to leave us with before we hand it over to Oliver?
Yep. So a couple of things. I'll take about 2 more minutes here. So sometimes there's a misconception about the military. So the National Guard specific, a lot of folks think it's just full time when it's not. So here in our organization, we have doctors, we have lawyers, we have engineers. That's their full time career, and they come here on a weekend and fly a Black Hawk helicopter, twice a week, or their own communications equipment. So the Guard is a part time career that can be advantageous to your civilian career. So we have a lot of folks, like I said, they're doctors, they're lawyers, they fly for Delta Airlines, JetBlue, but that's really something that I want to make sure that your community understood. And we support our states, whether that's Florida, whether that's North Carolina, Maryland. We help our citizens first, and then we help obviously the nation if we have to go do our missions. A couple other things here. So I wanted to leave you guys with a few takeaways. Have a dream and an executable plan to get through those goals. So there's one thing to dream, but you have to have a plan, an executable plan, measure those goals to get to where you are. What you do right now matters. So what you do right now, whether that's building relationships, studying a little bit more, staying out of trouble, what you do right now matters for your next 5, 10, or 15 years. Leadership and relationships matter. So when we talked about STEM and how I kind of defaulted into STEM, so you have a lot of smart people in STEM, but you also have to have leaders that understand that career field that can bring those teams together to talk and accomplish goals. Because some folks can't communicate well, but some folks can. So you have to have leaders that can bring all of that together. So I think that's one thing that kind of got me to where I'm at. I'm very good at bringing teams together, and just seeing those STEM organizations be successful. Be a team player. All right. In our organization, no one is before the organization. So always be a team player and build those relationships. And finally, consider a career of servant leadership. I've been in the military 24, going on 25 years. So there's
Wow.
nothing I'd
Congratulations.
rather do than serve our community, or we have a hurricane or whatever. We're the first that's called. So you see those helicopters doing search and rescue missions. We work for you guys. We work for the community, and we're very big about producing servant leaders. So just think about a career in that field also.
Thank you so much for working for our community and just for being supporters and just for always being there. We owe you guys a lot. And we respect you guys a lot. So thank you. We I see learned you so much
Yep.
today.
Mm-hmm.
And we appreciate you.